Hello, Mallards. It is Monday, and this evening we watched the second Fear Street film, Fear Street Part 2, 1978, which was fun. I'm actually really enjoying this series. I kind of like the way that all of the stories are connected, but also not connected. As in, I think you could enjoy this one without having watched Fear Street Part 1, 1994. We'll see if that carries over to the third one, which seems to be sort of tying everything together. But essentially, they found C. Burnham, and they talked her into telling them what happened, like how she escaped the witch the first time in 1978. And we got a flashback episode to 1978 and all of the characters at Camp Nightwing before they're killed by the Camp Nightwing killer, who we had seen in the first film, the guy with like the sackcloth over his head who was wielding an axe and murdering people. And it was actually really interesting. I feel like we got a lot more lore about Sarah Fear and the whole witch's curse idea. This really built in the like actual mystical, dark, magical elements. So there was a witch's mark, a whole set of underground caves, some very strangely weird, like beating heart goo pile, which I think turns into all of the previous killers. As we saw in the first film, when they blew up the killers, they sort of like recongealed, and it looks like this beating heart that's in the center of this cave that is shaped like a witch's mark that was created when Sarah Fear made a deal with the devil and cut off her hand, can sort of reanimate into all of those people. We did get a chance to see those killers again, actually more of them come out in this film, so that was kind of cool. And overall, the film is about two sisters, Cindy and Ziggy Burnham? Now I can't remember. C. Burnham. I think it's Burnham. And you're following them. The sisters are pretty different. Like Cindy is very clearly like straight-laced. She's also, I think, a year older, so she's a camp counselor. And Ziggy is a camper who is kind of wild and getting herself into trouble all the time. We also get to see a young Nick Good, who is the current sheriff, and his brother, who is the current mayor, who we decidedly don't like. I mean, we didn't like him in the 1994 at all, and we definitely didn't like him when he was younger as a camp counselor. But we do like Nick a little more now. So the sheriff seems like an interesting guy. Like, hopefully he'll play a role in the next bit. We liked him. So it follows the two sisters as they are messing around at camp, and then things get weird because the nurse at the camp is Ruby Lane's mother, who was the whistling killer from the first film, and she already, like, her killing spree already happened. And so Mary Lane, Ruby's mom, was at Camp Nightwing because this summer camp is located in the original settlement of Union, which is the town that was then split into Sunnyvale and Shadyside. Is that what it's called? Anyway. And it was split into those two towns that exist now. And there is a belief, obviously, that Sunny is like a beautiful place to be and that Shady is cursed. That's why, like, their team mascots are the witches, and like they're clearly in competition. Like at this Camp Nightwing, the kids are dressed in different colors for the color war, and they're playing Capture the Flag, and they've got some real like elitist Sunnyvale stuff happening that I'm not a fan of. Like, I don't like how it's mostly led by the kid who grows up to be the mayor, and I just realized how much I hate him. Like, I just hate him. But the kids are in a competition and sort of pitted against each other, but Mary Lane is there because she's trying to figure out what was happening with Sarah Fear and, like, stop the witch's curse. because she found out that if you reunite her hand with her body, you can stop the curse. And so she's there at the camp trying to figure stuff out. But she goes after Cindy's boyfriend, Tommy, because apparently she saw his name written on the wall. And we've seen this wall in the cave before. It has the name of all of the people who become murderers, including it's Sam's name from 1994. Samantha's name was on there. And she tried to kill Dina. And like during this film, while they're hearing this story from C. Burnham, like Sam is locked up in the bathroom, still kind of a crazy killer trying to murder everybody, which is interesting. And so they're going through this story, and Mary sees Tommy's name on the wall and tries to kill him. He fights back, but he hits his head and he bleeds, and that's enough for the witch to get control. And then he becomes the Camp Nightwing killer. And you watch the two sisters, and the whole time, well, here's the thing. The whole time I was pretty sure that the girl we were eventually meeting at the end, like the girl that survived, who is C. Burnham, was probably Ziggy, despite the fact that the other girl's name is Cindy, which starts with a C, because that would have made it too easy. Like, it was obviously going to be a reveal that C. Burnham was not Cindy. Like, they were planning that from the beginning. Like, I knew that going in. I would say all of us knew that going in. Plus, Ziggy's the much more interesting character, and she's the one with the relationship with Nick, and we figured out at the beginning of this episode that when Nick, like, when the sheriff wrote the note that says it's happening again and dropped it at a house, that it was her house. So we watch these two sisters. They start to figure out stuff about the witch. Cindy finds the cave where the weird beating heart is and the witch's mark, and starts to figure out the plan of the original town. And her friend Alice, who eventually dies, unfortunate, finds the hand. And so they have the hand, and they go to the hanging tree where Sarah Fier was buried, and they try and dig her up while all of the killers are coming for them. But all they find is a stone that says the witch lives on, because clearly somebody moved her body. And then they both get killed. But Nick, who was crushing on Ziggy, comes out and saves her. And so she survives because she dies and then came back. And I think that the way that this camp story is told is really fun. One of the things that I like is that they kill a lot of campers, like a lot. I think like 13. But they do all of them off screen. They kill some of the counselors on screen, like you see that happen. But all of the kids, anybody who would have been like young, they kill off screen, which I think is cool. Like, I like that part of it. They also only kill the kids from Shadyside. Now I just can't remember. Shady Vale? Shadyside. I think I don't know. Which I find fascinating, because in the original Fear Street stories, and I think I talked about this in the last video, it is the Good family, Mary Good, who is hung as a witch. And then her husband curses the town, including the Fear family, who, like, accused them. But in this, Sarah Fear is the witch, which leads me to believe that it's the Good family that cursed her, or that ended up hanging her as a witch. And so I don't understand why she doesn't go after them and their whole Sunnyside group of people, because they're clearly the problems. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But essentially, the hand gets left there under the tree, and the girls both die. And then we find out that Sheriff Good basically was like, oh yeah, Tommy just went crazy and killed people, even though Ziggy was telling him that it was the witch and the curse was real and that they had to figure it all out. And so they had sort of a falling out that they fell out like within 24 hours of when they started to maybe like each other. So it was a very short-lived interaction between the two of them. And then when we flash back to present 1994, the kids, Dina and her brother, say that they found the body because that's what they found in the first movie, and they want to know if the hand is still there. Turns out the weird tree that we saw in the mall, and we were all like, why is there this giant tree in the middle of the mall, is because they kept the hanging tree. Like, they built a mall over where Camp Nightwing was, but the hanging tree that Sarah Fier was hung in, you keep, I guess, magic. And so they dig up the hand in the mall and they take it back to the body. And then the film ends with Dina like touching the hand, and she like touches the hand to the body, and then suddenly her hands are like bloody in a water basin, and she looks down and the reflection she sees is, I assume, Sarah Fier. And so I guess touching the body transported her to 1666 so that she's going to get to see the whole origin of this. And I'm really interested to see how this plays out, because Sarah has been doing some terrible stuff, and I really, really, really want to know how everything plays out and why this is the way that things have gone, why those specific people were chosen as killers, and if she is as evil as she seems to be, or is she gonna come out as a like wronged person who's just getting revenge. I don't know. But this one was, I would say, a little less gory than the last one, but had some pretty good jump scares and was just fun. It had that camp element that's very enjoyable, that little rivalry bit that you get sometimes. And I really had a good time watching it, and I feel like it's really pulling the strings together. Some of the little bits that we kind of figured out in 1994 have been pulled together, and really getting into the lore of Sarah Fier and the witch legend and all of that has been really fun. So I'm excited for part 3. We're gonna watch it next week, but I'll see you tomorrow.